Mbula everyone. Vinakavale vinasema mai. Na sini vinakanikua. Nitaka ni mbula vinakatiko. Na vinodha pangao ni sema tiku mikina na kaviongosa. Vongo 5 miniti. Me tolu na kaloko. Na nonda vuno mai viti. Kito kervivo sa tukani na viwakani. Na MV Sola. Nindondon me kato sema na rona kaloko. Via tandre vale lai na mona liba ka sona vuno ala tiku talanga kina ka usanga ya talanga mengo sarani kito mai soto pata baka biokani na siku bina kani ko vina ka baka lebsar bikim ni na barong tiku mai lipi bakere Karen bole binaka. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Okay, ya me baka ngala keni baka rau and then ronga teman ko dona sere me tek buta kana nanta program sa dana kay baka ronga yani be Mr. Michael Valentine o ko na mboso ni liu ni MV Sola ngosa karua ni nero ngone ni Talanoa kero sa Talanoa cuma dai liu ngosa ngol tal ngona keni karua o Petero Vatu na non to turanga mani dia mai biti siam chuku melo toka na ngai siam talanga moko na mona liba na ngonongo sesanga tiko ko mena siam mai melo toka wakambulu tikan bikim ni kedana biokandi ni siam tiko melo toka na siti ni suka siti rere binaka o lo toka o ni taka ni rongo binaka tiko yani na bio libu ni betala no na singo binaka ni ko ye me ka usaba ko madal takotia na do mandana ta sere mi tekubuna na nanta vitala no ni berni na kai tekubuna na pakamalala o Mr. Michael Valentine siap sar chuko ko mai New South Wales mai Australia nimbula ni mate binaka mai and then arongo na matango na sere na fascinating Fiji alangata o neta tesi mutu na bitu and then ngande tiko ina mosi na itamba totoka ya bakarutaki na nona ngole mai biti rona beauty mai Finland o William kay Paula Winterland and then sarap matango na sere membaleti biti naka binakandina na domona na turanga naita sama bakavengo o chese mudrambitu. Marong binakandina na domona na nona sero to toka libu kino koe kele libu talanga na sero ya na fascinating Fiji. Au kla na sero ngoe venga niti saranga ke na nirobi Talanoa. What a beautiful song. That we've just listened to, Michael, and it's very relevant, I'm sure, to this Talanoa, singing about Fiji, and Mr. Michael Valantine, who is logged in today from the state of New South Wales in Australia. He has deep connection to Fiji. His heart, he is in Fiji, and also you want to acknowledge the Valentine family from New South Wales for his dedication to bring his company over to Fiji, and it's based on solar. So today's Talanoa is going to be the second part 2 of our storytelling and sharing of information in relation to solar energy and solar power. Now I would like to say Bula Vinaka to you, Michael. Would you like to say Bula and welcome our listeners who are listening to us right now?
Yes, Bula Vinaka, Dr. T, and Bula Vinaka to everybody out there joining in. It's a pleasure to be part of your show, and like I was saying before we got on here, I really appreciate how, even though you're not in Fiji, you still take you, and it doesn't matter where in the world you go, there's always somebody from Fiji there. And I feel like I'm part of Fiji as well. And once you're part of the culture, it sticks to you like glue. You're part of that community, and that community just, I don't know, embraces you and takes you with them. And so I want to give something back to Fiji, and I want to help people understand what the confusing part of renewable energy and solar energy. And if I can make it a little bit better for one person, then I've helped something.
Michael, we really acknowledge your commitment. I think if I can use that word, and I think that's a really important word. There's so many islands in the Pacific that you would choose to take your company to, and you chose Fiji. So we are really fortunate, I think, to have somebody like you with your business background and your family as well with a dedication to use Fiji as one of an extension of your business from Australia. So maybe to kickstart our Talanoa, and I know I'll try my best to bring Petero Vatu onto our show on my phone. But while you were speaking, I can try and get him through via my mobile phone. Perhaps just to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started this business to kickstart our Talanoa again, because I know there are listeners who may have missed our first Talanoa, and this can be a good chance for them to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, Vinaka. I just want to go into it briefly because I could talk about what I've done for the last 37 years for all the show, but it's not about that. It's about something I believed in many years ago. I did electronic engineering, electrical engineering. I've done renewable energy, done all those things as qualifications. But when I was doing my engineering degree, solar energy came up as a small part of that course. But I was fascinated by the fact that you could create energy from a solar panel or a device that sat there making no noise, causing no issues, and creating electricity that we could power the world with. Now, back then, solar energy was out there, but it was a very small part of any industry. And really, it was all about being completely off-grid. If you were a long way from the grid network, people could afford some small panels and a few small batteries, and maybe you had a little bit of light, or people couldn't afford a size of system big enough to be able to power their homes properly, let alone their businesses or other things. But cut a long story short, and when we look at what's happened in the last, I'd say 15 to 20 years, there's been this revolution cartwheeling forward and growing in momentum that's gone from this tiny, small industry with all industries, realizing they probably didn't need to spend much money because the industry was so small. But in that time, they didn't realise that China was investing billions of dollars in manufacturing plants and getting behind this wave of renewable energy. And that cost of solar systems reduced quite dramatically. The incentives coming from government was also increasing. So it was the perfect storm to create what happened in the last 15 years. So coming from a background and even building a solar car to compete in the World Solar Challenge and being part of the first initial team to try and help get accreditation started. And I actually started the first renewable energy course in TAFE New South Wales. I had a passion to try and get this technology out there because I thought, and I believe it can help people, it can change people's lives. Now, Fiji is different. We've got an office in Denman where I'm sitting at the moment. I'm actually sitting in my house in Denman, which is about 3 hours northwest of Sydney by car. We have another office which is close to Newcastle, and we have our office in Fiji. And a lot of people have said to me, why have you gone to Fiji? Well, most of my work comes from word of mouth. And I believe if you genuinely try to do the right thing by people, and they're out there trying to help people, which is what my philosophy and what our company does, by offering the best service and by offering, they will tell 10 people. And those 10 people will tell another 10 people. And from word of mouth, that's really where things happen. I got to Fiji by word of mouth. I need you in Fiji. In the Pacific, you look around, you've got the perfect climate for solar. You've got the sun that's so close to the earth. You've got intense solar radiation, but you've also got the perfect conditions there to test solar because you've got constant high humidity, you've got constant high salt levels, you've got extremes of weather conditions, and you've got temperature ranges that fluctuate. So it is, even though it might have the perfect amount of solar radiation, it also is the perfect condition to try and destroy whatever equipment you put out there. The right equipment to start with, and is put in with a real quality installation that's done to meet the conditions. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Either not going to work to start with, or it's going to be blown away, or it's going to rust and corrode and fall apart, or it's going to be destroyed by the same solar radiation that creates the energy. Can also break down all the plastic components and break down all the things that actually make it work. So when I came to Fiji, I saw I could make a real difference and try to show people what a good system should look like, should feel like, and how it should work. And that's what we're doing. Now, last time I went through and I think we pretty much talked about our company, our vision, what we've done, how we progressed to where we are, what the challenges are in Fiji. But I wanted to go a little bit further today and explain a bit more about how it operates so that people can get a bit more of a broader understanding, not in too technical a detail, I hope. I'll try and keep it as simple as I can. But I thought if I can get some detail in there so that people can get a concept of how a PV grid-connected system works, incorporating a hybrid battery, how that might work for them and how it actually will serve them in the home, or even completely off-grid, what the elements are in an off-grid system and what you've got to look for to get a quality system that will last. There's no point going down to the shop and buying something, a cheap little system of a couple of batteries and a couple of panels, sticking in and thinking you've got your home power solved. And realising that, yeah, while the lights might work for a little while, the batteries die, it doesn't do what you want to do. You plug things in and the thing's dead in 6 months. That's not helping anybody. So that's where I wanted to come to today. And so part of this show, if you like, is I sent you a presentation, which we did for the Nandi Sports Club, and we often run seminars for people, free seminars for people to come in and have a look at the equipment. I can run through a few things, ask you questions, and I can explain what's going on. So I've brought some of that presentation here with me, and we can go through some of those slides, and hopefully that might help people understand how a system works. And you can't really make a decision on what you need unless you can understand how it's going to fill your need and fix your problems. I hope that makes sense.
Saranga. Absolutely. And, as we were talking about it earlier, Michael, before we started our live, is the importance of, information. Sharing on information is really important, but also education. Yeah, so we are all learning together. And what a wonderful way to do it through your presentation. And for all of us who are listening, to our families, like close to 100 devices or watching right now, which I'm really impressed about. And I know from the last live we did, Michael, there was so much inquiries. Yeah, people were wanting to learn more. And I think for you to be here today, is a testimony, to many of our people wanting to know more, but also for you and Petero, wanting to share this relevant information. Like as you said, for us to purchase something, we need to know what the product is. So shall we start with our presentation?
Certainly.
So will you share from your side, or you want me to share from my end?
I can do it from this side if it makes it easier.
Okay,
As
sounds
long
good.
as you allow me to share.
Yes, I've allowed you already, so you can just share when you're ready. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
let me just get the slideshow started.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, don't be shy. You can type your question on the chat. And Petero, our colleague from BUA, he's also online and he can answer your questions as well. You can write your question in Fijian if you're comfortable with it. And also, the others can also ask in English as well. Or if there's some of you who can speak Hindustani, please do so, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So over to you, Michael.
Unfortunately, I can only speak English, so you'll have to help with the rest. So I don't know can you see the slide that I have up at the moment?
Yes, we can. Do you do yeah, we can see the slides. Do you do the slideshow, or this is more than enough for you?
Now, this is if you can see it, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
we
happy
can
with
see
that.
it. Yeah.
The slideshow. Am I doing a slideshow or am I just no, I'm not. Hang on. I've got the wrong tab open. You can probably see all the tabs I've got up on top. Where's the slideshow?
Yeah, so if there's a slideshow,
Where's
then we can
PowerPoint?
just
This
see the
one.
slides. Yeah.
Okay, start slideshow. Okay. Yes?
We can still see the tabs at the top.
Oh, okay.
So we can see the image in the middle, but then we still see everything else around it.
Okay. What about now?
Yes, that's better. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works and when you know how to use it. All right. So look, I'll just get into the show at the moment. Most people think solar energy starts with a solar panel, and it does. The solar panel is the device that converts electricity into electrical energy. So solar and electric. Each one of these are called solar cells, 6 of a volt. Now, if you notice, you've got these conductors here, these buzz bars, will actually connect one of these solar cells to the next solar cell to the next solar cell. Each one of those are connected in series. So for this solar panel that we're currently looking at here, for it to give you about 40 volts open circuit voltage, it's made up of 60 of these cells, all joined together at 0.6 of a volt each. So 0.6 connects to this one, makes it 1.2, 1.8, 2.4, so on, up until we get to 60. Now, a lot of people don't realise that all of that electricity has to flow through every one of these solar cells, all the way back, all the way up, all the way back, and all the way around. Now, if one of these cells is dirty, for example, you have a bird that goes past, or one of these cells is shaded, it doesn't just affect that part of the solar panel, it affects all of the solar panel. So think of it like a water in the hose. When you're trying to water the garden, you get a small kink in the hose, it's going to affect the electricity and everything. And then a lot of systems are called string systems. So then that's not just one solar panel. You connect that solar panel to the next solar panel, to the next solar panel, to the next solar panel. You only have to have one solar panel that's affected, like we talked about. You've affected all of those panels now in that string. And a lot of people don't realise that, especially in a lot of these cheap systems that are out there. The way they put them together it may not be the best and most economical way to look at generating electricity, especially for the long term. And what I really want people to do is have something for the long term that is of best value. I'll just keep moving in the slideshow. If we'll go to the next screen. Oop. So who am I? I think I shared myself a little bit. That's what I do outside installing solar panels. Is I've got a rally car. In that car at the time was my son, so my son navigates for me, my daughter navigates for me. My wife won't; she doesn't want to get near the car. But that's my daughter there, where we won the 2018 New South Wales State DRS Championship. Pretty happy times. But to me, my family is my life. My extended family, which is my solar and renewable community, including all the lovely people in Fiji. I mean, to me, that's everything. This is a system we did in Nandi Airport at Fiji. So if you're ever flying in and out of Fiji, have a look out your window and you might see our panels on the roof. But let me move on. So this was aimed at the seminar, and I thought it was pretty relevant for today. And it said in this seminar what we're going to cover. So I thought, similar sort of thing. Let's look at the overall of the industry. Let's look at the increasing cost of electricity, because I think that's a real problem for everybody, not just in Fiji, but all around the world. The cost of fossil fuels is increasing. The cost of energy is increasing, and people are worried about those costs. In Australia, like, for example, I think in the last 3 years, costs have actually doubled in 3 years. And I'll go through further about EFL and what they're planning to do. And that's, design challenges in Fiji. We look at string versus microsystems, and I gave you a little bit of snippet on that. We're also going to look at what is hybrid and what sort of storage we can look at. We're then going to look at off-grid systems, standalone systems they're called, and then maybe a bit of a thought about what the future might hold. And this little snippet here is the off-grid system we did at Coral View Island Resort in the Azores that withstood Cyclone Winston. Now, we've all got our challenges. Now, one of my challenges was building my home. So this was part of the construction of my home, and we're still building it 10 years later. So that's one of my challenges, as well as some of the others. But everybody's got your own challenges. So in some ways, hopefully I can help those challenges today. The other thing here is, which is interesting, right? So our Prime Minister, not our current Prime Minister, but our previous Prime Minister, was the very first one to ratify the Paris Agreement on climate change. I don't know if everybody is aware of that. And it's a legally binding agreement. Now, I don't know how they're going to make it compulsory, unless they're going to, I don't know, enforce it by some sort of means. And the goal for that agreement was to limit global warming to 2% and aim for 1.5%. Now, the challenge for Fiji is we only make up 0.006% of all global emissions. But as Fiji wants to be a good corporate citizen, we want to be able to do our part as well. The other thing is the target is net zero by 2050. That's a pretty ambitious target, but I think, well, this is what the world's going to, and we need to be part of that. The other thing is, what does it mean to you, to me, to somebody living in a village in Fiji? One of the impacts, for example, of climate change is this. Now, that was actually taken in Sydney, Northern Beaches in Sydney, probably 7 years ago now. And you can see these homes have just been destroyed. There's a number of other places I've been to in Fiji where villages have been destroyed just the same. So I think you know what I'm talking about. Let's keep moving on. Now, this is something interesting, and you might want to really look at this closely. Now, this was proposed from EFL, and they've sent this to the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission, the FCCC. This is their proposed electricity tariff from 2023, which is this year, to 2027. It hasn't been approved yet, but this is what they've put in. This is the current tariffs that you have, and this is the proposed tariffs that they want to do. At the moment, everybody that's listening, if they're connected with EFL, will be in one of these tariffs, depending on whether they're a domestic customer or they're a commercial customer or industrial. Now, you can see these tariffs are pretty simple. But then look what's over here. So the energy charge per kilowatt hour is like a litre of petrol, how much energy you're using per hour. This one here, that rate has actually gone down, for example. But they've got a fixed charge per day. So this is the hidden charge. So even if you use no electricity whatsoever, you're going to be hit with a 25-cent charge every day. And that's at the subsidised rate. You then go to the non-subsidised rate, your rate per kilowatt hour is higher, but they're hitting you 65 cents. Now, one thing to remember here, you still need to add 15% VAT. This is before the VAT. I'm not going to go through all of that, but if you look at commercial customers, they're really stung really badly. So their rate was, let's say, 41 cents. It's now gone to 48, nearly 49 cents, but they're paying $3 a day just for the privilege of being connected. Now, that's only small users. That's only a small business, a small shop. And that's only up to 1,500 kilowatt hours per month, which is really small for a business. So most will step up to this rate, which is now basically 43 cents. That's what you're on now. You'll move to almost 60 cents, 58 cents plus VAT. So you've got to add another 15% on that. And still with the $3 a day. Now, if you're a much larger user, well, then just look at these charges here. I mean, it's pretty frightening where it's all going to. On top of that, you then have a demand charge. And the demand charge is a capacity charge. So even if you use no electricity, it is, if you like, the capacity to use that amount of energy at any one time. Like you might have to start a lot of motors in a process comes from. Does that sort of make sense? Now, this is what they're proposed. What do you think they're going to propose it before the end of 27? Or before the end of 2030 or before? Yeah. We all know where that's heading. So the other thing is I find, and this is everywhere, Australia, Fiji, Hong Kong, I've been a lot of different places, solar energy is relatively new to most people. They don't know what it's all about. So the questions I often get is, what can I do? How can I get this to help me? What can I do about those electricity prices? Who can I trust? Like, there's a lot of people out there saying a lot of different things. Who do you know is telling you the right information? Who was actually going to help me and who was just trying to rip me off? Who was just trying to sell me something so they can make some money? Who was actually trying to solve my problem? So that's a really big question. Solar. What is solar? So many people are confused between solar hot water and solar PV, which is the electric panels. A lot of people don't even know the difference. They don't even know how it can help them. How do I do this? What will the outcome be? What if I make a mistake? Everybody's afraid of making a mistake. Sometimes this is really limiting and you're so scared of making a mistake, you do nothing. And do nothing means you're never going to solve that problem. It's just going to get worse. You need to do something, but you need to do a bit of research behind it as well. And maybe it's not, a lot of people do research in the product. Oh, what sort of solar panels do I have? What sort of batteries do I have? What sort of warranty? All of those questions are good, but really, you really need to ask the question of, who do I need to tell me that information and who can I trust to go with to do it for me? That's the question that you really need to answer first. And you can only do that by researching the company or researching the people behind the company as to whether they will do the right thing by you, by have they done the right thing consistently for other people? And can I go and talk to those other people? Batteries, how do they, I've gone forward. Batteries, how do they work? Is this the right solution for me? So if there's any other questions that anybody out there has, please send those in. Message those questions in and I'll try and get to them at the end of this presentation. And look, jump in any time, especially if I to the grid network. So let's imagine grid-wise. Now, there is an electricity meter somewhere in your home. If you're connected with the electricity network, this is the part, well, this is the part we don't like, because this is the one that adds up all the electricity you use, and this is how they work out how much you're going to pay. So we don't want electricity through this meter. We don't want to get as much of this as we can. So what we can do simply is put solar panels out and a converter. So solar panels will convert that to the electricity we're going to use in our home, which is AC, 50 hertz AC electricity, either 230 or 400 volts. Now, at the moment, let's imagine that this doesn't exist. You've currently got the electricity grid, which is EFL, comes to the EFL meter, comes to your switchboard in your home, and you're using that electricity as your tick, and every month EFL gives you a bill. Now, if we incorporate a grid-connected system, we connect it, not just in the middle of the line here, but that would be at your switchboard. And then what happens is when the sun is out, it's feeding electricity straight to your home. So instead of all your electricity coming now from the meter, it's being fed straight to your home. And you're not paying for it. Once you buy this and you've got that sitting on your roof, every time the sun's out, it's coming in free. Every day, it's just coming in. So during the day, if we've got excess power available that we're not using, we keep the fridge going, but there's not much else, that excess power can go backwards. And that's why this arrow is here. And it going backwards through your meter to the electricity network to be used by other people. So you're not just helping yourself, you're helping to power the rest of Fiji in your little bit, in your way. So this is a really good system, and this is what's taken off around the world in the last 15 years, especially in Australia. And in Australia, what they were doing is paying you for that excess energy during the day going back to the grid. So you're making money off selling your excess electricity. And that was a really big thing. In Australia now, the penetration of solar is getting so big, that money they're buying from you is getting so much less. And in fact, it's getting to the point where we'll probably give you nothing or even charge you for the privilege of sending it back. So that's a pretty scary thing. In Fiji, it hasn't got to that point. But in Fiji, as we know, EFL and the electricity network is already at capacity. They may not say that, but if it isn't, why do they keep turning it off every now and then just to try and keep the lights on in other places? And in fact, got one of those old meters. Believe it or not, that meter will spin backwards as the electricity is going backwards. And that meter will go down instead of going up. It's a really amazing sight when you see someone and you put it in their home and you actually see the meter turning backwards, how excited people get. So anyway, that is the first thing. So does that make sense? Yeah? Perfect.
Yes, this is wonderful.
I can see everybody nodding up there.
Yeah, we've got some comments from, I think I've got someone from Tonga. Also, there's some questions from Australia. So it's good they're typing in their questions. So towards the end, then we can go through them together, Michael. All good.
Perfect. All right, well, I'll keep moving on. So as I said, I'm trying to build up on this so that people get a bit of a picture about how it actually operates and works. So just keeping in mind this picture in your head. You've got the solar panels feeding that energy to your home. So if we go to the next slide, what we've got here up the top is this blue line. So if we have a look here, this is midnight in 24-hour time. And over on this side, move my own face out of the way, we've got midnight again, which is in 24-hour time. Now, this is a snapshot of one day of monitoring. So this is just the cycling of loads during the night. And in this particular home, this is their load. You see, it says load here. You can see they've started to get up around 6 o'clock in the morning. They've turned the toaster on or kettle or a few other things they're doing. And you can see there's this lump of energy they're using between basically 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then it's dropping down to background loads of probably the fridge and who knows, a few other things they've got on. It looks like they started doing something during the middle of the day. Maybe they've turned the stove on and they've started cooking and they're having a nice lunch. And I know this load was from a retired couple in Australia. And yeah, they probably were. The wife was home, baking the dinner. Who knows? And then obviously finished at about, 1400, let's say, 3 o'clock, somewhere around then. And then we can see the loads are going down, but you can see there's a bit of a lump here when we're getting closer to 6 o'clock. Now this would be probably some of the lights coming on, the television, opening and closing the fridge, who knows, whatever it is. But you can see this is a typical day in somebody's life. Now your load pattern may change, but you're going to have those spikes going up and down, and you're going to have that load. Now all of that blue, that area is in kilowatt hours, and that's what you're going to be paying for as it goes through the meter, that EFL meter. So how does this system work with your load now? This is what we're going to look at, right? Let's go back to the load. Now here's the same load. So it's the same blue, right? But this time what I've done is I've put a solar system on there and I've incorporated that solar. And it starts at about 7 o'clock, a couple of bits of cloud coming in, and peaks just before, probably about 11 o'clock. So this system is facing slightly east. Otherwise, it would peak at about 12. And you can see as the sun starts to go down, it's pretty much disappeared by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this was more autumn, it could have been a spring, but it's not a summer system. The solar now has covered all of that blue during the day. So during the day, except for maybe a couple of these small peaks, you're not paying for any of that electricity. But the trouble is, you're paying for all of this because the sun's gone now. This is now coming back from EFL, so the meter's starting to tick up. Now, see the orange yellow, is bigger than the blue here. That's called excess solar, and that's where it's going backwards through the meter. And in fact, with an old meter, we'll turn it backwards. So this is called feed-in energy, and you can get paid for that as an excess in some countries. In Fiji, to a limited degree. So if you just had a straight grid-connected system, no batteries, this is how it's going to operate and operate effectively with EFL. A string inverter system, or for example, in that first slide, remember where you go through an inverter? It's connecting all of those panels together. So the electricity goes through one panel to the next panel, to the next panel, to the next panel, and then down to the inverter to be converted to AC. The trouble is, let's look at this panel. This panel's got a few leaves that's falling on it. It's down to 50% of its output. The trouble is, all of these panels are connected together in series. All of them are only operating at 50%. So even though only one panel has been shaded a little bit, this string inverter is acting like all the panels are shaded. Now, it could be leaves on the roof, it could be dirt that's fallen, it could be shade. All of that. Now, in Fiji, we haven't brought string inverters into Fiji. What we've brought in is what's called a microinverter, that of these devices down here. Two reasons. This inverter has to convert all the energy of all of these panels and more, depending on how big the system is. So it's doing a lot of work. It's getting very hot. So it needs ventilation. It needs cooling stops all in one go. It's also sucking all of that hot, humid, salty air through the device. So string inverters don't really last very long in Fiji, especially if they're exposed outside. And you'll find that even good ones that might be manufactured in Europe, which are really good inverters, but Europe has completely different conditions. It's cold, it's snowy, they don't have the salt levels that we do, all the other issues that we do. So these string inverters just really don't last. And plus, if something goes wrong up here, they really don't work properly either. These microinverters are different. You have one inverter for one panel, one inverter, one panel, one inverter, one panel, one inverter, one panel. Straight away, the only DC is from one panel. It's converted to AC straight on the roof. So these sit underneath the panel. And this time, this microinverter matches this panel exactly. So it's going to be reduced to 50%. Exactly the same as this one over here. But the panel next to it is in complete sun. It's working at 100% because it's got its own microinverter. This one is at 100% because it's got its own inverter. This one is at 100%. It's got its own inverter. So even if on this particular example, if you look at down how much 50% of one panel, this system is down 50% of the whole system. And the more panels you have in a string, the worse that gets. So even on an unshaded roof, generally you will get over the life of the system 20% better performance out of this forever. Obviously, these cost more. That's only the upfront cost. But you're not buying it for the cost. You're buying it for the savings. You're buying it to solve your problem. So I'll leave it to you as to which one you think is going to solve the problem better. The other thing about it, let's say one of these they're electronic. Things fail over time. So if you've got 20 of them, you've lost 5% of the energy of one side. Can work at lower works till later in the afternoon. Much better system. This is the airport, air terminal services, and this is us installing those very microinverters on the roof. One solar panel, one inverter. And you can see as we're putting them down. They're underneath the panel. So once they're installed, you never see them. So you don't have to have space by your switchboard to try and have this system installed. This is an example of the reporting of a system. And the other advantage is we can now monitor through each one of those microinverters right down to every the week, for the month, for the whole year, at any time it was ever installed. I can even see what the weather is like on that day that I'm looking at. So this particular day we took this snapshot, was on the data anywhere in the world, which is perfect. I can monitor your system. The system, I can set up various parameters in there so that if it falls outside those parameters, it sends me an email if there's an issue. So every one of these devices under every solar panel talks to me. Not every day, because I can't look at millions of systems every day. But if there's a problem, it will talk to me and say, hey, I've got a communications problem. Oh, hang on, oh, I'm not producing. Oh, hang on, something's wrong here. And then our engineers look in there and we analyse it. And we can drill down and even measure the voltages of the panels, the temperature. Yeah, it's amazing what it can do. And I could probably spend 2 hours just talking about this, but I won't today. Here is an example of the monitoring, which shows for this particular day, for these panels, this is what it produced for that day, 612 watt hours, right? And that was taken at 11:15 a.m. So it's a lot of information, and you get access to that information if you purchase the monitoring, of course, not if you don't. Keep moving on. That's grid connected. The other thing is we need to look at then what happens when we don't have the sun out. And these days, this is one of the big growth things, is putting hybrid batteries into place. Now, I've made a statement here, nobody wants solar. Nobody actually wants it. We want to stay warm. We want to stay cool. We want to go swimming in our pool. We want to be able to cook. We want to have cool drinks. We want to basically live like we're rich. How do we do that? Well, we need something for the fridge to work. Well, we need electricity. Well, if we didn't need to have electricity, we wouldn't want to have solar. But solar and solar renewable energy is the cheapest way of actually getting that electricity and getting it forever. We've got the sun there, it comes directly from the sun. Why don't we use it? So really what we want to do is lower our bills. We want the freedom to use energy when and how we want. We want to have some independence. At the moment, we're tied. If you're connected with AFL, you're tied to whatever they want to charge, when they charge. You're tied to the fact that they're turning the power off or their system shuts down. You can't do anything about it. But you can if you have your own energy system. The other thing is we can provide backup. So in other words, when the power goes down for EFL, we can have our own system from batteries providing you the power so your power in your home can keep going. And we can stabilise the grid network. So even if the voltages and the frequencies change, we can make sure it's stable. So if you've got a business, your business doesn't stop if the power's out. So to know that we've bought exactly the right system for what we need. And that's where people say, oh, look, what system do you have? I have lots of systems, but it's not about the systems. It's a matter of putting it into what you need for your scenario and for how you live or for how you work, or for how your business operates. That's what's important. So this is a lady we did, Christy Davis, and she's actually got, believe it or not, this is a hybrid battery system where up the top is an inverter. We've got panels on the roof, which we didn't show, and the bottom is a battery. Now she, since installing this, and this is probably going about 5, 6 years ago now, she has not had a power bill. And in fact, she gets a credit from her solar company. So as well as no power bill, she's making money off that system. I know, unbelievable. It's amazing how things have come in such a short time. Now, how does that system work? I'm just going to go briefly through it because I know I can talk too much sometimes, people tell me. And we talk hybrid. Hybrid means multiple forms of energy. That's all that means. But let's have a look here. I'm not going to read that. You can read that if you want. But essentially, here's a setup where we've got the grid. That's just simulating the grid. Coming into your switchboard, for example, in your meter. Yeah? We've got solar panels on your roof. Now, your solar panels are connected to your inverter. Remember I showed that picture before? So these are all your appliances. There's your washing machine or dryer. Here's your television. Here's some lights inside the home. This is how it works. You've got normally the grid coming in through your meter, and the meter's going up because you're feeding that energy to all those appliances. Now, we put solar in. Solar during the day will go through the inverter, and as well as that excess. Remember that excess we had on that first diagram? That excess energy now is now feeding this battery. You see the battery starting to fill up by those little yellow bars there. So by the time nighttime comes, which is the bottom picture, the solar panels no longer work because they're sitting in the dark. And contrary to belief by some people, they do not work in moonlight. There's not enough light in the moon to be able to make them work. But if you look at this time, this is the grid. We want to make sure that there's no grid. And you can see the grid is black here because it's not bringing anything in. It's not going in or back. It's also still black here because we're still not using any grid, because this time, see the battery was fully charged? The battery was charged, but now is delivering it through those arrows through the inverter, through your meter, and still providing all the energy for your loads, whether it be just for your TV and your lights, and you still want to keep whatever you want to do. So that's how a hybrid system works, using the excess energy during the day to charge and store, and giving that energy back at night to operate your home. Now, this is that same diagram, but this time See the blue line? That's your load. That's your load, blue. The same load that we had a look at a little while ago. This is the yellow, the solar panels that we also looked at, which is covering that blue during the day. See, between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning? But this time, we've incorporated a battery. And if you notice here, the orange gets above the blue here, yeah? Somewhere around here. Notice the battery, this green, has started to charge. Now, this is the battery state of charge, 100% over here, whether you can see that. And you can see it is charging the battery with the excess solar available till it gets to probably about 12 o'clock, that it's about fully charged, yeah? Now, that battery stays charged, but we still have excess solar. Now, that excess solar will actually go back to the grid. So you still could provide energy back to the grid network as well as charging a battery. But look at it this time. If you didn't have a battery, this time the blue is now higher than the yellow. This time the blue means you're going to be starting to pay for electricity. Not in this case, because now the electricity is coming from the battery. See how the battery is discharging? So the battery now is covering all of this load. And by midnight, the battery's down to pretty much almost out. So in this case, this battery has been designed for this customer so that it's utilising pretty much mainly self-consumption. So they're self-consuming pretty much all the electricity available. Now, even if you have to buy a little bit of electricity after midnight, it's not going to be very much. If you look at it down here, I've included some brown, and brown is grid consumption. Brown's the part where you've got to pay for EFL. Now, in this case, in Australia, we get a cheaper rate at night for electricity than we do during the day. And so you can see midnight again, pretty much it's all brown because we've run out of battery. But there's a spike of brown between 2 and about 3:30. See that? What we've done, but look what's happened to the battery. The battery's actually charged to about 50%. Oop. And you can see over here, it's about 50%. Oh, keep going to the next screen. The reason we did that is to try and give a bit of energy in the morning before the sun comes up. Because in Australia, we have a different tariff or a different rate of energy at different times of the day, where it's most expensive during the day and early part of the evening. But here, if you notice, the battery's starting to discharge at 4 a.m. in the morning and covering this early morning load until the sun can start to take over again. So to me, this is a perfectly balanced system where this customer is giving some feedback, but also managing all their electricity and using their battery to full effect. Now, putting that all together, there it is there. And this monitoring is fully available to that customer and to me as well if I log in. So you know exactly what's happening every day as you are using it. Now, this red is feed in. That's the part where we're feeding it backwards through the meter and providing EFL with our excess energy and helping other people and maybe getting some money back for ourselves. So I know there's probably a lot in what I've just said. I hope I made some sense. Thumbs up if it's okay. Beautiful. I got one thumb up anyway. So so far I've gone through a grid connected system. Now I've gone through a grid connected system, incorporating a battery to make it a grid connected hybrid system. Now we need to look at.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll just stop there for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, just thanking our listeners. Some are posting their questions, so just want to encourage them, keep sending in the questions. As we were saying before, after the presentation, then I will read the questions over to Michael, and Petero as well will help out. So again, just acknowledging that. Vinaka, Michael, continue.
Okay, thank you, Dr. T. Moving on then. Now we're talking about off-grid. So the first part is if you're connected with the EFL network, and that is really only on the mainland or selected other islands. Really what we want to do in most of Fiji is do things ourselves. How do we live off-grid? Now, there's two types of off-grid systems. Well, there's actually a whole range of off-grid systems. They all vary in sizes, but the principles behind it are the same. first off, I'll talk about AC coupling. Now, I know it might get technical, and if you don't follow me, that's fine. I can always go through it again at another time, or you can even contact one of our staff in our offices. So same thing again, we've got solar panels. Solar panels generate that DC electricity. We need to convert that electricity to AC in an AC coupled system. And that goes through the switchboard or the protection device to power up your home. Power to be able to cope with whatever you want. So looking at
Isa nimbula kula ni cut off chukubalila on internet to Michael. He's gonna join us back on. Boleh binaka Petero, boleh binaka Simon Bakarabia, Chani Batiwali, do boleh binaka. Michael, you got cut off there a little bit and you were breaking off. Maybe we'll go back to the slide and start from the beginning, just the part that you were sharing.
The very beginning?
No, not the very beginning, just the last slide. Just the last slide, because you were breaking off and then you dropped off.
Share it again.
Yeah, just share it again. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. I apologize.
There, that's it.
Okay. The screen back up on the display now. All righty. I will try and do it again.
Yeah, if you can just summarize this slide again. Thank you. Nimbula Binaka. Thanks for listening in.
Off-grid system is that here's your home here, and in your home you're going to be using lots of different devices. Yeah. Yep. Well, I will, but I've taken a different tact here. So your load is the most important thing. Your load is what I need to know because I need to design this system above to suit your load. So we're still on, yeah, still hear me? Yep. So I want to design the system to suit your load, not your load to suit the system. So how this works, we've got solar panels up here generating the electricity from the sun. They generate DC electric voltages. We need to convert that because we can't use that directly.
Yeah, he's dropped off again. I think his internet is a little bit unstable. So I just want to say Vinakawaka level for everyone joining in from Australia, from Dubai, from Tonga, and all around Fiji. Vinakawa level for joining in. So Michael is going to load up again and share the PowerPoint. So thank you for those of you who are asking questions. Please keep sending in the questions because we will have a Q&A session after. Michael, we lost you there. Would you like to go back to your screen?
I'm sorry, I'm getting technical problems again.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're talking about the off-grid
Okay, we're back. Yes. So I think I got up to the inverter charger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the inverter charger, so the panels here provide DC through to AC electricity straight for your home during the day. Well, just like we looked at before, the excess energy during the day will go through the charger part of this device to charge your battery system. And that starts to charge up the batteries. So at night, when there's no more energy coming through this, what happens? The excess loads, these all work together. Now, if at times the batteries are getting low, we can't pull in the grid network because we don't have EFL anymore. But what we do is we have a generator, and it's important that we have an appropriately sized generator that is an auto start generator, because this generator needs to start automatically by this device. This inverter charger will constantly monitor the state of charge of the battery, and when the battery's starting to get low, it will bring this generator on to make sure that we're still continuing to provide energy to the home, but at the same time, recharge the battery. Even though the sun may not be there, or it's raining and it's cloudy, this generator needs to be big enough to provide energy for your home, as well as excess capacity to keep charging your battery. And when the battery gets to a point that it doesn't need the generator anymore, this device will then turn the generator off. Now, while it might look fairly simple in this diagram, it's quite sophisticated how all of this system works together. And it needs to be designed correctly for it to work with your loads in your home. And from those monitoring we looked at before, this device can also be connected up to the internet. So we can monitor this system anywhere in the world. And I can monitor this system, and I can reprogram this system, and I can work with you. I don't even have to come to site at most times. 99% of the times I don't even have to come to site to solve a problem if there's a problem. So that's called an AC coupled system. And the reason it's AC coupled is we've got to look at what is charging the battery. What is charging the battery is from the solar panels, but it goes from DC to AC. So the coupling from the batteries is through AC. That's why it's called AC coupling. Now, that's good for power during the day, but the trouble is every time we convert from DC to AC, we're losing 10 to 15% energy. So we're losing 10 to 15 here, we're losing another 10 to 15 to bring it there, and then we're losing another 10 to 15 to bring it back at night. So while AC coupling is really good during the day, it's not so good to charge batteries and give you power at night. It's not as efficient, let's put it that way. So let's look at the next one. If I can go to the next slide. So the next slide, we're talking about a DC coupled system. This is a bit different. Your home is over this side now, see that? Now, the solar panels go through what's called a regulator, controller, charger, maximum power point tracker. In other words, it's a solar controller. It controls the energy from the panels directly to the battery through protection and fusing, whatever, but it's DC to DC, so there's very little loss in energy. Now, that energy is going to the battery, and at the same time, that battery is connected to an inverter charger. This inverter charger is now taking DC to AC, and it's providing all the AC for your home. So the batteries are getting charged directly from DC. See, there's no AC coupling the batteries. That's what DC coupling means. This device, this inverter charger, is and this is my Sunny Island, and we do both of those. It still controls the generator. So if the batteries are getting low and not being able to provide enough energy, this device will turn the generator on to continue to provide power to the home, and at the same time, start to charge the battery. So this is a DC coupled system, and it's the most efficient way to charge the battery. Not necessarily the most efficient way to deliver energy to the home, because it's going from DC to DC, then back to AC during the day to charge your home. The best system is probably having the best of both, which is what I tend to do, is have a mixture of both DC and AC coupling and putting it together to make a system. I hope that makes sense. Just moving on, I don't want to labour on all these things, but here is the monitoring from that system. We can see this is a simulation of the home, and this is Select Live. This is taken as a snapshot from one of our customers on the 26th of September this year. Now, at the moment, their home is only using 0.3 of a kilowatt at that time. You can see that the solar panels are delivering only 400 watts, 0.4 of a kilowatt, but the battery is pretty much fully charged. Now, this can deliver up to, I think we've got a 10 kilowatt array there, but can't deliver 10 kilowatts at the moment because there's nowhere for that power to go, because the house is only using 0.3 and the batteries are pretty much full. So what happens is the system is turning the panels down so it's not using all of that energy. Now, we can even build it so that, for example, we can turn on an extra load like a pump when we have excess power, or in some cases a swimming pool filter, or might be something else that we can turn on and use that excess power. In this case, if this was a hybrid system connected to the grid network, we'd be pumping that extra power back to the grid. But in this case, it's not. It's a generator, and you can't pump power back to a generator. You can't put the generator power back into a generator and create diesel. It doesn't work that way. So generators only come in, they can't go backwards. So that's the simulation that's happening here. And this one goes to a server for an SP Pro, which is actually manufactured in Victoria, and the server's there. And when you look at this system, you're looking at their server, and it updates every so often. It tells you what last time it looked at. So does that make sense? And this is an example of the monitoring directly from that same inverter. And you can see here, the dark grey is the load, the solar's coming in, and then you can see the solar starting to turn down because the battery, which is here, is pretty much at 100%. And then at night, same thing again, start to disappear. This is that very system. And this is the retired couple that we're talking about. And this is that inverter charger. This is that grid AC coupled inverter. This is the regulator connected directly to the batteries, providing DC coupled. So this is your DC coupled side. This is your AC coupled side. And your batteries are over here. So this is the best of both worlds. Now, this system has been up and operating probably 7 or 8 years now, except for a bit of maintenance every year. No issue for them. It's even better than grid power because you're not even paying for it. There's a bit more of a close-up of the system. And I think I went through photos like this last time. This is a lead carbon battery bank. As you can see, the batteries are in there horizontal rather than vertical. Here is your protection. So those batteries come up to this fuse switch. Panels are connected to this regulator. So that goes from the panels straight through this regulator, straight to through this fuse switch to your batteries. This is your AC coupled side, which is connected to separate solar panels. Those solar panels get directly coupled to your load, which is your switchboard here. And the excess can also still go through here back to your batteries if it's required. So the perfect scenario of both. And very few people actually do both. They either do one or the other. Here's an example of a larger system. This is at Coral View Island Resort. As you can see, their battery bank is a hell of a lot bigger. If you want to run a resort, it needs to be a lot bigger. We've got 3 inverters here because they're 3-phase. And this is the solar array that actually withstood Cyclone Winston. And we know how big that was. So we can do it smaller, we can do it bigger, we can even do it bigger again. So the other thing is what solution do you need? Which battery do you want? Obviously not one of these old ones, not one of these ones that haven't been looked after very well. Not some of these ones might have been bought from a cheap manufacturer. Here's a larger off-grid system, version of a hybrid battery system. So there's so many different types around it. You've got to pick the right battery, the right system to fit your needs, not the other way around. Some examples, bad designs, like we talked about before. These are too close together. This panel array is shading here. Now, if it's shading those panels, as we know by looking at what we looked at, the string inverters before, it's not just affecting these panels, it's affecting the whole array. It's not just affecting these little cells at the bottom, because each one of those cells are connected to each other. It's affecting the whole panel. So all of those panels would be operating at less than 50% of their capacity. What's the point? Yeah. And this company offers free training to help you become a solar specialist. Well, looking at this, I certainly wouldn't be going to that company. They don't even learn the basic understandings of shading. String inverter would be very poor design. So this is just off a company's website. Here's one that's permanently in the shade because it's underneath the eaves of a house. What's the point of that? And here's some of the other issues you could come up with as well, you know, depending on who's installing a roof. Here's some micro cracking from very poor panels, and here's some browning of those panels due to EVA, which is the plastics inside it going brown. So you put plastic in the sun, what happens? It goes brown, it gets brittle, it cracks. Well, if they've used cheap components, that's exactly what happens. It starts to shade, and the micro cracking causes hot spots, and in the end, it can actually cause fires. That's not what you want to happen. Or you don't want to see things like this. So they're the sorts of things that can go wrong. But thinking about the future and what things we can do, what we can do is anything in this area, and this is what we specialise in. I love off-grid systems because I love to provide people's power. Here's an example of a water pumping solution. Here's an example of our recoast seawalls where we can eliminate coastal erosion. But maybe we can have a chat on another day, at another time. But some of the things you don't know about in Fiji, we've done on-grid systems, both PV grid connect and hybrid. We've looked at off-grid systems, but we can look at wind turbines or micro-hydro, micro-hydro is good in some places in Fiji. We can look at grid support systems. If the power, from coming from EFL, isn't good enough to run your business or even your home, we can support that and co-share with EFL. We can do peak lopping systems where if you've got big jumps in peak demand where you're turning on a lot of processes, we can provide it just to cut the peaks. And water, the whole range of things that we could do. And things are available, but which people don't know about. And there's just an example of some of the systems we've put in. This beach, for example, was all rock. And the way our seawalls work, it actually rebuilt the beach from nothing. And even though this wasn't installed properly, this was just installed as a demonstration, was at Coral View. What happens is the waves of every day come in, they don't just go over this, but they actually build up and they bleed through that block design. But I'll talk about more detail if you want to discuss that at a later time. So, and we did have some special offers, and I've got some special offers that I can offer people in Fiji if that's what people want to look at. But maybe I can put that on your website if you're interested, or we can send it out later. And I'll offer that same special offer that we had for the seminar for people that have listened in today. Now, if you're listening from another country, you want to do something in Australia, I'll also offer, obviously not Fijian prices, but we can offer different special prices that we can do here. So, yeah, this is one thing I liked. Here's what I know about the future. It happens as a result of what we do today. So it depends on what you want to do. We're going to create the future, but it starts with whatever step you take right now. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Dr. T. Wow. I appreciate you allowing me to present that. And I hope it has created some clarity with people.
Wow. To all our listeners, that deserves a beautiful clap. I was learning so much, and I've been getting people, sending me messages here on just how much, they're learning, today. And I'm sure with our listeners, we all agree. Because nito okay, lebih nang sa dakanga. Kito metakan ito sola. Dakan ito sola, But we need to know the details of what we've just heard. Yeah? So to our listeners, I'm sure we all feel empowered now. And I think what Michael has given us is the opportunity to make the right decision. Yeah, you can only buy or purchase the right solar panel to suit the need of where you live. Bikin do bak may bua, do bula binaka turang tal sunia, do bula binaka to all the different parts of Fiji, Michael. You reckon with the many of us that are listening in today, would the different types of solar will depend on where we live, because some they live up in the mountains, some are more exposed to more sun in the west. What about the people in Vanuatu, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole range. I mean, everybody lives differently. Everybody lives not just in a different place with a different climate, but how they live is different as well. What they do, what loads they want to run, how they want to run, how many people they have in the home, everything is unique to that person and how they want to live. So the solutions that we look at is trying to fit your lifestyle with where you live to the proper equipment that's actually going to make it happen. And then the questions I ask is, the very first question I ask, what do you want to do? And they say, well, I want a solar system with battery. No, not about the system. What do you want to do? How do you want to live? Oh, well, what things do you want to run? Let's count them up. Oh, I want a fridge. Okay, we want a fridge. How big is the fridge? Right? How often do you open the fridge? What are you putting in the fridge? Are you putting a lot of FIJI bitter in the fridge? Or is it for your kava? Or is it for the food? You actually want it for, oh, you want it for food. Okay, that's different. Do you have one fridge? Do you have two fridges? Do you have a freezer? Oh, yeah, I have freezer too. Do you want to have the freezer so you catch your fish? Okay, so we count that up and I say, okay, well, how do you get your water? I have a water tank. Okay, you got a water tank. Well, do you have a pump? Oh, yes, I have a pump. But you didn't tell me about the pump. Yeah, but I have a pump. So we got a pump. Okay, now lights. How many lights you got to have? When do you run the lights? Do you want your TV? Do you want your TV during the day? Do you want it at night? How many TVs do you have? And so on and so on. Yeah. Do you have your hair straightener? Do you have your hot water system? Do you have this? Do you have that? So we look at that. But then how many of those things do you want to have at the same time? Do you want to, when you're running the washing machine, your wife is doing the washing machine, for example, do you want to have to turn the fridge off? No. Well, let's make sure that we've got an inverter that's big enough that can run both, as well as the TV, because you want to watch the sevens, and have the fridge going because you need to get your Fiji bitter out of the fridge. Right? So everybody's life is different. If it's a resort, completely different thing again, right? We need to look at the occupancy rates. We need to look at what they've got in all their berets, what their kitchen equipment's going to be, for example, their pumping requirements. So we need to really analyse down to the nth degree. Now, if you're in an area where it has a lot of rainfall and not as much sun, for example, that's a different climate. So what we're going to do is say, okay, well, maybe we need to put a lot more panels to generate the energy that we can when it's cloudy. So even when it's cloudy, you still get energy. You just don't get as much. So you might get 50%. You might get even 10%. So we might say, well, instead of having a 10 kilowatt system, we might put, which is what you need, we might put a 20 or a 30 kilowatt system in so that when it is cloudy, we're getting 3 times 10% instead of 10%, if that makes sense. And we might put more batteries in to cover for the periods where it is cloudy, or we might put a bigger generator in to cope with the times where it's rainy and cloudy. So all of these things work together, but they need to work together in the context of how you're living and what you want to then do. And then the other thing, what are you doing that's now? What are you going to do next week? What are you doing next year? What are you doing in 5 years' time? What are you doing about the government's mandate that we're only going to be selling electric vehicles in 5 years' time? What's the country going to do about that? Nobody knows, because the electricity grid network can't cope with the load that we have now. How's it going to cope with doubling the load with electric vehicles? Well, maybe you need to look at yourself and provide your own power for that. But at the very least, let's look at the option to be able to upgrade these systems to be able to have that happen, if that makes sense. So, so it's a matter of, to me, it's a matter of it's not just one size fits all. It's like the weather. How do you predict the weather? You can't just look at one thing like air pressure. You've got to look at everything. Well, that's what I look at, and our team looks at. We look at everything to try and get you the best solution. And that best solution isn't a system sitting in your local shopping centre that you're buying off the wall. That solution is tailored to what you do. Now, the other thing is some people say, oh, I can't afford that. I don't have the money. Right? Now, one of the things you can do is you can use your F&PF. You can use some of that money towards an energy system and a solar and renewable system. A lot of the systems we will do, we can expand on. But I'll be upfront and honest with you. Look, we'll have the solar system. It won't suit what you want to do right now, but it will do this, 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 this. Maybe you get this to start with, and when you get a little bit more money, we can add to it to do a bit more, and we can add to it to do a bit more. So I would rather put a system in place that we can expand than put a system in place that where, oh, you want a bigger system, we'll have to take that out and put another one in, because that's a waste of time too. And if the system's too small to start with, you're probably going to kill it. And that's not cost effective either. And a lot of times I say no to people. That might be funny. I want a solar system. I'll say no. After I've had a discussion with them, after I've already gone through and said, this is what you need. And they say, oh, I can't afford that, but I'll have this. I say, well, no, I'm not going to do that for you because I know it won't work. I know it won't do what you want it to do. Oh, yes, but I found this one from whoever. And I'll say, that's great. It's a lot cheaper than what I've offered. But it's not going to do what you want it to do. It's going to do this, 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 instead of this, this, this. But you wanted this. But unfortunately, a lot of salespeople just try to speak up their product, and they will just say yes to everything until you buy. Once you buy, too bad. Money's gone.
Money's gone.
It's only later on that you find out it's wrong.
Wow.
So I hope I answered that question. I probably answered too many.
No, absolutely, because knowledge is power, and you sharing this valuable information, so that when people decide to make their purchase, they're making the right decision. And I think what you've just highlighted to us now, which I'm sure the others who are listening in will agree, is that we need to have our inventory, clear from the word go, and for us to actually know what we want. So thank you, Michael,
Absolutely.
for really allowing us to go back into our own homes and looking at, even you going back to the the hair straighteners and the hair curlers and, the fridge, the television. How many do you have? The heaters, the stove. So there's a lot of that that we need to think about.
Even charging your phone, that's an essential tool now. Actually, one thing, Dr. T, if you don't mind me saying, is that I love the Fijian people, but what I find is that they're very trusting. They trust what people say. People in Fiji live for the moment. They live for now. And sometimes that's to your own detriment because you're not looking for tomorrow. I'm not saying looking for the next 10 or 20 years. I'm saying, but at least plan for the next 6 to 12 and look forward to the next couple of years. Because what we're trying to do here is change your future, not just live for today. Don't just live for the party. Don't just live for the kava bowl. Just think about if there's something I can do today that's going to benefit me and benefit my family, benefit the village, benefit the people around me. How can I do that and successfully make that happen without impacting my life today too much? But just plan a little bit more. And we can help you do that. I'm not out there. I came to Fiji not to make a fortune. I wouldn't come to Fiji to make a fortune. In fact, I was offered to go to Dubai, for example, in those Arab states, and they will pay anything there with knowledge and expertise. And I'd probably have a very wealthy company, and I probably could have made a lot of money. I'm not into making a lot of money. I'm into helping people. Obviously, every business has to make money. Otherwise, you have no business and you go bankrupt and then you do nothing. So the business is the vehicle to help people change. And that's what I'm trying to do for my business, both here in Australia as well as in Fiji. And I see Fiji as the door to the Pacific because everybody looks at Fiji as being the leader in the group. If it works in Fiji, it's going to work for us. How many of these other nations come and they talk to you and they say, well, hang on, How do you have it done there? Can we do it for us? Will it work here? So the proving ground is Fiji. So you should be proud of that. I'd like everybody to be proud of our own nation. I'll say our own nation, Fiji, and help me to help you.
Wow. Thank you for saying that, Michael. Simon Vakaravia, he's logging in from Sydney right now. He mentions really happy with your presentation, and he mentioned that I like the versatility and option to be able to add given available finances. That's one of his comments, and he also mentioned that also Michael, our Fiji market is very price conscious. So there's a few people here who are asking the questions of price. So Vikram Donataro Chukumai, they really thank you for having the price there on your slide. So we will definitely post it up. And just remember, if you want to, utilize that price, what would you like to say that to our listeners, Michael, about the price for Australia and those in Fiji? There was a few people here who were asking about the prices, Mike.
Yeah, look, on that slide that I put up previously, that is for a grid-connected system only, and it's using microinverters. So there was started off with a 2-panel system, a 4-panel, and an 8-panel. I might bring that up again.
Sure.
It's not for an off-grid system. Just so we can see what I'm talking about.
Simon, if I just read this again to Michael, he says, we need the right expertise and knowledge of having a good system that lasts. And I think that's really true. Because sometimes, we get moved, to make decisions by, salespeople who just want you to buy their product. So please, our brothers and sisters who are listening in, what Michael is sharing with us is something that will last long and, good for your purse and your budget, but also thinking ahead. And I think that's my takeaway from today, Michael, that we're not just thinking about today, right now, right here, but thinking of what your decision is now, how will it benefit you in the next 2, 5, 10 years and more. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah. So look, just briefly, this is just a small snapshot of whatever product we have. There's so many different things out there, but this is something I put together that can help people connect to EFL directly. So remember I showed you those slides before of a grid-connected system, both string and microinverter. And I told you they're cheaper, but they just don't work, as you can see. Here is normally the 4,800. It's a special for this week, 4,400. Now, I will do this offer. Now, this offer was for that seminar, but I will actually do this offer for your listeners in Fiji if they want to sign up. Pretty much I'll give it till Monday and Tuesday.
Nice.
I'm not making anything of this. This is just to try and get it out there, just to try and show people the technology and it works. Now, these panels have warranties of 25 years. The microinverters have warranties of 10 years, but are design life of 25 years plus. This system is a long-term system that will benefit you pretty much forever. So 2 panels, 2 micros, 4 panels, 4 micros, 8 panels, 8 micros, depending on where you want to go. They're the costs. It does not come automatically with monitoring. We would have to include the monitoring with it, right? It's an extra cost to add that monitoring. Now, the monitoring is the same monitoring whether you have 2 panels or you have 600 panels. But unfortunately, that's the cost that's there. Now, one thing on that, I've also done an extra special, if you like, and I did this for our listeners here as well. Just for the 8-panel, 8 micro system, the normal price was 14,800. Special price was 13,600. Even the tonight only price was 13,000. I've even made that cheaper again, and I've included the monitoring for free, but only for that system for this one thing because I want to get it out there. I want you to see the monitoring. Now, that monitoring will show you just like you saw on those curves. You'll be able to see what you're generating, what you're using, Now, this system can be expanded on top of that. You can start with one solar panel and one microinverter, as I showed you before. As I said, this is only obviously for offer in Fiji, and this is only for a grid-connected system. Now, we do have other products that we will be bringing into Fiji, which will be smaller off-grid systems, as well as larger systems, but just to get people started on something, because batteries are expensive, and batteries are the weakest link in any system. Now, this system does not include batteries, but we could include batteries later if required. But at least this will get you started.
Michael. So for those of you who are watching, just amazing feedback and appreciation. So Chochi Nangarvatu saying thank you for your presentation. Definitely investing on solar panels soon. Doon Lubinakai. Libyana Hyde, the Bulubinaka may New Zealand. Also our brothers and sisters connecting in from New Zealand. Simon, yes, I think it's all in Fiji dollars. Yeah, the one you talking about here, Michael. Yeah, Fiji dollars.
Oh, we can do these systems, but obviously not for these prices not for these Fijian prices elsewhere around the world. But we can talk to people individually if they want something else.
Yeah. So the one that he's talking about now is for the case those of you in Fiji, and it'll be in Fiji dollars. But if you're in Australia or any other parts of the world, just have to contact Michael and his team. And Petero.
Yeah.
Petero is also watching in right now. So any questions that you may have, remember they've also posted up the address in Lotoka. There you go, 13 Bowalu Street. That's the address for those of you in the West. And that's their phone number, their email, and their website. Yeah, well, that's one thing about MV Solar. The communication is very good. You know, they respond to all the communication methods that come through to them, via their website or their phone or via email. So don't hesitate to get through to them.
And just for those in Australia, you might want to say our Australian number is 02 65 47 11 00. I'll just repeat that again. It's 02 65 47 11 00. And the email is the same as this one. Instead of FJ, just put AU.
Okay.
So info@mvsolar.com.au.
The only thing that changes is the country number, the country
It's
abbreviation.
just the FJ. Just put AU. But even if you're in Australia, if you send it to our Fijian address, we're all one company. We all work together.
Beautiful. For those of you who've been posting up your questions, there were a few that asked about the price, so that should answer your question. Tartala, I think the Sunia, Tartala Sunia Bolibinaka, I think he was asking about to ask about the price of the battery, solar gel battery, 200 amps.
Yeah. If they want to get in contact with their office, it's probably a little bit, rather than talking specifics on a specific product, because there's so many different types of gel batteries around, whether he wants a gel battery, whether he wants a lead carbon battery, whether he wants a lithium, it might actually be cheaper and work better for him, depending on what he wants.
Right.
So I think just take that number for our office number and just give them a call. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sunia, gay torangan namba, gay giringabi Petero, Petero Vatu. Turang talaga nimbua, and ro Vyokani Vata, they both from the same province as Petero. Yeah. So that'll be nice.
Okay.
So they can speak their lingo when they speak on the phone tonight. Vinaka. And
Yes,
Chochi Nangaravatu, Vinakawali Chochi. Chochi, this is what Chochi mentioned on the post and a question. For residential usage, including hot water usage and electrical appliances, what's a recommended number of microinverter to be installed? So that's another technical question from Church.
It is. It's a little bit harder to answer that on the phone. Really, what we do, if you're connected with EFL, first off, we would look at your energy bill. That tells a lot of information of how you work. If you're not connected with EFL, it's a completely different solution as we talked about earlier. So we can tailor it to what you want to do. One thing is, if you're connected with EFL and you only put one solar panel, or let's say you take the smaller system, 2-panel, 2 microinverters, you might need 10 micro panels and 10 inverters. But even if you only put 2 of them on there, that's 20% of your energy is going to be already by solar. That's one start. So we don't have to provide all of the energy. And it doesn't, this is one misconception. People think, oh, it's either running on the solar or it's running on EFL. But no, they're actually working together. So where the solar's not enough, EFL is already there. So they're always connected. It's not as if you've got to switch it from one to the other. It's not as if it's automatically switching. It's always working together. So you can start with 2 panels as your budget dictates, and then maybe come and get another 2, and so on.
Wow, that's wonderful, eh? Yeah. So, Vinakbale Buchochi, I think you'll be in contact with Petero as well as Mr. Michael via the connections that they provided here. They'll be really great. Safira was another of our sister from Dubai who contacted us in your first Talanoa session. Looks like they're building their home in Sabu in Honolulu.
Nice.
Yeah, so they really appreciate it. So they're both connecting in also from Dubai. So binaka bakalevu and yeah, I'm sure many of your questions, if you get in touch with the team in Fiji or directly to Australia with Mr. Michael, most of your questions will be answered, especially the technical ones. Eh? Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a number of systems in Sabu too. It's a very beautiful place.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you shared the examples of the hotel. You've got the airport in Nandi, and then you also have the individual homes. So they will be made to fit your need. What say, Michael?
Exactly. I mean, I could spend the next 4 hours going through a lot of different installations and photos that we've done, but I just wanted to give a small sample today of the sorts of things we can do.
Absolutely.
And really, it's about, like, we will be operating and we will be running more seminars in Fiji and in Australia for that matter as well. And if you have the opportunity, I think it's worthwhile to come along to one of those as well. They're free. You'll get to meet other people of like mind. You'll get to see some of the equipment that we can put in your home and get to talk to me and talk to our team. And I think that's important because relationships are built by personal contact. Now, I suppose the computer has allowed us to be as personal as we can be around the world. And you've done that brilliantly.
So true.
I hope in some way that I can connect with people out there and they can see what I do and what I feel needs to be done right. You know, I'm not out there, you know, I'm out there to try and help people. That's it. And I want to make sure that it's done right. So I'll give you the right advice. And I'll give you the right to. And all our staff are the same.
Michael and Petero Vatu is also listening in. We come in about wrong to mine. We can't it's okay. Sa tiko na nono to mani dia directa may lo toka o Petero Vatu turangan imbua. Ba wrong tar chunga mongko kwa na Talanoa bina Congo. Kaya kau ni email yan virtu na timi may lo toka. Ertoro ni somaine na nomulitaro. Nanumuti ko na isaw bita mayo Mr. Michael ya. Kaya baka ni binakatsaranga muni na boli na moni madongo. Baka luto ko sumusaranga ko medo bana singa moni katumai. Babi ni binakin na uredi na turangan ko lomani kenda din. Binakato ko misulia don na yau weekenda meyanga. Di ko baka ngatak no milabo. It's worth it. So I'm just trying to, if I translate it for you, Michael, I'm saying to our audience that what you are trying to do with your team is to make it worth it for the money that they give. So it's an investment, yeah. So the decision they're gonna make is gonna be a good decision, but it has to make their money worth every single penny. Eh? So your hard-earned money has to be put in the right place with the right team. In this case, with Mr. Michael Valantine and his team, making sure that there's a long-term survival of your products. And he has shown some pictures from different parts of the world who go the cheap line way or the plastic way and the easy route. And what happens? The pictures you showed was evidence to that. So, Michael, I'll leave it back to you for any last comments you want to share with our audience.
Yes, level. Thank you to your audience. I appreciate everybody spending their time, and it's been a privilege to be part of your show for the second time now. And I feel grateful that people actually want to listen to me, and that I can share some of the knowledge that I've gained over all of these years. I have a passion for my family, and I love my family, and I want to make sure the best things happen to my family. And the way I have with my customers and people that purchase from you, for example, they become part of our extended MV Solar family. And it's funny, probably a third of our work that we do, especially in Australia, is repairing other companies' systems. It's not work that I like to do, but it is work where companies come and they put a system in and they run away. They always run away. You can never find them again, or they've gone bankrupt, or they've disappeared, and people are left. They've gone there honestly thinking they're getting the right things, and they're not. I can't always repair them. Sometimes I have to replace them. Sometimes I just got to patch them up, and they're never going to be a good system. But if you're with us forever. We're not going anywhere. We're there to help you for the long term, because what I want to do is build a relationship forever. So most of I call them customers, but they're actually friends. And when we talk on the phone, we're talking like friends. Hey, Bill. Hey, Sam. Yeah, Mary. And it feels like you're talking to your uncle and your auntie. So maybe I got a bit of Fijian in me as well, because that's how I like to have everybody feel. Anyway, Vanaka Vakalevu, thank you very much. As I said, I'm privileged to be part of your show. It's a pleasure every time, and even anytime you want to have us back and have a talk about different things, or talk about politics. No, I don't want to talk about politics, but anything you want to talk about, please, you're more than welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. On behalf of all of us, we have families connecting in from New Zealand. There's one here, Francis Varances, connecting in from Waikato in New Zealand. Also,
nice.
Our friends from Australia, from Dubai, also from Europe. So there's quite a few from different parts of the world. And of course, our loyal fans from Fiji. We communicate some connecting in from Lambasa and the different towns in Fiji. And we all learned so much today. And I think for you, Michael, you're very passionate about your field. And I think this is the best way to do it. That, information is power. Education is very empowering, so that when they make decisions, they're making the right decision, and they're making spending their money and making every single penny worth it, because I know many of them work so hard to get the money that they're saving up for so many years. Many of us living overseas, they're coming back home to rebuild, and we're just so grateful to you, Michael, and your family in Australia, and of course your big family in Fiji. Michael, and we'll definitely look forward to part 3 when Petero is going to join us this time.
That would be nice.
Okay,
Thank you,
Michael. Nakamode.
Okay,
Mode. Isa. To Michael Valantine, connecting in from New South Wales in Australia. Also acknowledging Petero Vatu, who's logging in right now from Lautoka, but due to technical difficulties, he cannot join us today. But we're just so thankful. And we learned so much, and we all sharing. And I think the point that Michael said, that it's really important to hang around people who share the same interest, spending time with like-minded people. In that way, you speak the same language, you're all on the same page, you have the same vision, and you're on the same journey. So please keep logging into my program, and we'll be happy to invite the team again to come back next time. Michael, Vinakapakalewa and Seven Bakarabia, to all our team in Australia, thank you for logging in and sending our big loloma to you all. Nisama de mata. Naka, wade,
Naka.
naka, wade.